All right. It's a couple minutes before 7, but we're going to get started. You're listening to and watching the Autosportradio.com 2015 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway at 30th and High School in beautiful Speedway, Indiana. A couple of things I want to mention. First off, anybody here is interested, the Murat 500 Club is raffling off a ride in a two-seat Indy car. The winner will be drawn on 8/1 at the Sportsman's Raffle. They're $10 a piece, 3 for $25. Proceeds are not tax deductible, but all the money is going to go to the Shriners Children's Hospital. Jim Albers, sitting right down here, has the tickets. I said they're only $10, and there's a two-seater ride that's available. So if you're interested, see him, buy some tickets. It's good for a good cause. How many of you folks, oh, by the way, everybody here remembers Milo and Betty Joe, and also are aware that Milo has passed away. I talked to Betty Joe last week. She's in the Youngstown, Ohio area, doing well. She said they moved all their stuff from here over there. She said, I still got 100 boxes, and I had the relatives and grandkids help me pack, and they marked the boxes where everything went, and I opened them up, and that's not where it goes. So she's working her way through that. But she said to say hello to everybody, and maybe one of these days she'll be over this way and she'll stop in. How many watched the race from Fontana this weekend? Well, I know you did. Who thought it was a great race? Mike, did you like the race? Mike, did you like the race? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. Excuse me. A couple of things that I didn't understand. Why Mr. Briscoe got penalized is beyond me. I didn't quite understand that one. Why, perhaps, it was instantly said, I guess, that Graham Rahall's faux pas in the pit area would be dealt with after the race, which I didn't understand that, because I hope they don't take any championship points away from him, because it wasn't his. He did exactly what he was told to do. And I thought he did a great job. It was good to see him win. It's too bad that Ryan and the two Ryans collided and went out, because Honda could have finished 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which would have been spectacular. And following the race, Mr. Robin Miller, I'm sure you all know and love Robin, put out a little piece on Racer Digital, which was pretty well spot on. On Sunday night, I happened to be, I don't know if I sat on the channel changer or what it was. I ended up on Wish TV, and there's Derek Daly, and boy, was he on. He was right on the button. And you know, the sad part is they keep saying, not sad particularly, but they keep saying what the series needs is American drivers, and guess what? Connor Daly's an American driver. I've seen him at 3 racetracks. He's there driving the two-seater. He's not in a car. He's walking up and down pit lane, and he's signing more autographs almost than anybody. He's a good kid. He's got the talent. I think somebody needs to wake up and put him in a car some way, somehow, even if the sales department at IndyCar has to help him out. I think they need to do something. And by the way, my guest for next week is going to be Derek Daly. So if you didn't hear what he said, you will. And tomorrow I want very much to hear the teleconference, because the guest on that will be Mr. Mark Miles. It'll be interesting to see what is said or what he has to say. And I'm concerned that a couple of tracks may go away because of the way they're scheduling, but I don't know that. But I got a pretty good idea. I have 2 guests sitting out here who would be so kind as to join me. I've heard a number of people comment how they thought that telecasting on NBC Sports Network has become excellent, done a nice job, so I thought I'd get the 2 guys that do that so that we can throw things at them in case you don't agree. But I want to find out how it works, what it does, why it does, and all of that nonsense. Can somebody look and see if he's on the screen?
Do I need to scoot in?
Yeah, maybe this way a little bit, perhaps. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we have with me 2 members of the Lingner Group who are with the NBC Sports Network. On the far end is a gentleman who is no stranger to motorsports, one of the original producers of motorsports on television. And he's done a little bit of everything from yacht races on the ocean to car auctions to anything you can think of, they've done it. And he is the producer of the IndyCar series for NBC Sports Network. Please welcome Mr. Terry Lingner.
Thank you.
And sitting next to me, I'll have to be nice to him because he's bigger than I am, is the director. He's had a career in directing, is now one of the most sought-after sports directors in the business. And he is here to answer my questions as to how this works and what he does and who tells him what to do. Please say hello to Mr. Roger Vincent.
Thank you.
Terry.
Yo.
When you started doing racing on television, it was obviously the very beginning of racing coming on television. Did you ever anticipate you would be where you are, what you're doing, and some of the things you've done over your career so far?
Well, that's interesting. I think the thing, I've had an opportunity to be around a lot of some of the really greats in sports broadcasting. So I think, as honest as I can be, I thought we would have a good chance to do something pretty special with motorsports, especially when ESPN first started. There was, I know a lot of you all remember this, but how irritated we all would get when all of us as fans didn't have the opportunity to, or the programmers felt like all we could take in racing was small doses. So they would put it on Wide World of Sports and say, well, maybe we can do 10 laps and then we'll go to cliff diving or we'll go to other sports, because nobody could sit through a whole 500-mile race or what have you. And when ESPN started, especially, and that was my history, and ABC before that, but the opportunity just to be able to show a race in its entirety was incredible. And then also, ESPN didn't have any kind of real money to begin with. That's not the case now, where we could do features and all these other things that would tempt us to even go away from the racing. Because, again, that helped me learn what not to do. You would never cut away from a football game, even though it was 35-5 or 35-3, whatever it might turn out to be. I guess you'd have to have a safety in there.
Not even for Heidi, you wouldn't go away?
You wouldn't cut away, but racing always felt like, well, we better put a feature in there or something soft or something because this is getting boring. Well, that obviously is not the case, and that's what motivates Roger and I, and it's a long-winded answer, but I always felt like what we should do is broadcast to the head of the class, to people that appreciate the sport. Don't talk down to them. Talk about your passion for it. Talk as if they are an intelligent audience that knows that this sport is special.
What got my
and
attention...
vote for me in November.
And he'll give you a free sandwich if you do. What in the world is all this humming? What got my attention from the broadcast, and I'm sure you guys heard it as well, is the two F1 guys, especially, I forget, not Lee, the other, I forget his name.
Steve Matchett.
Yeah, Steve, was absolutely knocked off his chair at what he saw. This is in honor of Dr. Lucas, and if anybody got loose filling, it'll fall out. He'll fix it for you.
It was the first oval race that Steve had actually ever attended.
Yeah, that's what
Saturday.
He said. And I thought
he should probably stop right now. It's not going to get a whole lot better than that, so he should probably stop.
I was kind of taken aback when he's telling Ryan Briscoe, "Stay down there, don't move, stay there, stay there, stay there." He really got into it, and really enjoyed it, and he couldn't believe how fast those cars and how close. Well, you're not used to seeing that. Formula One doesn't do that. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. But as I said, you have done sailboat races out in the ocean, because I've tried to get you one. He's not here. Where the hell is he? He's doing an ocean vessel. You're kidding. No, I'm not. That's what he's doing. And you've done car auctions. I mean, Lindner Group has been busy doing anything and everything. Most of it moves, either with four wheels or a sail.
Yeah, I think the thing that we've always specialized in, and now the company's getting down to me and my assistant Sandy, who's here tonight.
Oh, there she is.
Yep, she
I
snuck
told you
in.
she'd be here.
Yep.
Oh,
After a kind of a tricky surgery in December, but love her to death. I think we've always liked to do tricky shows, and it takes special people like Roger. And a lot of the folks that's been around us, the track and fields, the racing, like Le Mans, just anything that's really kind of tricky and not just cookie cutter, two guys punching each other in the face, which is okay. I like boxing, but it's not very tricky.
What is the job of a producer? You produce IndyCar racing for NBC Sports Network. What does a producer do?
I always, just as simply and as quickly as I can say, it's you have a lot of responsibility to set the show up, but when we're actually on the air, I can't even think of a more fun time. I've been doing it like 36 years, and Saturday was so much fun. I'm the producer and the coach, but I'm trying to call the plays. Roger's the quarterback. He can audible. He's knowledgeable. He can blow me off and say, no, I'm going to go here. But I trust him enough to do that while I'm trying to get the commercials in, talk to the announcers, talk to the associate director to keep us on time. I'm juggling a lot of things. Roger has to have the instincts to bring you what you see in a meaningful manner. And that has a lot to do with having the knowledge to show you the perspectives and so on and so forth. But
So you're the guy, when they say, you know how hard it is to be trying to announce a race and some yo-ho's in your ear, it's you.
yes,
So you're the yoo-hoo.
I'm the yoo-hoo.
Head yoo-hoo.
Now, you are the director.
Correct.
One of my complaints over the years has been, and I don't see that much anymore recently, was somebody would start 19th in the race and suddenly they're 5th, but they don't say how the hell they got there. They don't follow as they come through. Now, I've noticed that change a little bit, which I assume has to do with you, but do you pay attention to that? You got somebody telling you in your ear, hey, watch Briscoe, he's coming from 19th, he's moving forward.
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges with racing is other sports, it's pretty simple. You follow the ball. And in our sport on Saturday, there's 23 out there that you're trying to, where it's like, so if you're doing a football or basketball or baseball, as long as the ball is in the shot, you're telling the story to a certain degree. But in our sport, there's all these different stories, and it's up to between Terry and myself. You have to choose what you're going to be, what's the most important at the moment. The one downside of a race like Saturday, as great as it was, when they're 3 wide for the lead most of the time, it's hard to get back in the pack to show somebody coming from 19th. It's easier when they're all strung out to drop your way back and you see through the fields and things like that where it's easier to tell those stories. But, there was one time in the race on Saturday where I had to tell the camera guy, okay, let the 3 wide go, wait for the 4 wide back behind. Which you don't get to say that very often, and which was great, but the challenge is the odds of us being able to tell the story of the guy coming from 19th at that point are pretty slim, unless we can tell it. Then it's Terry works with the with the pit people and the pit producer. We can maybe tell those stories during the pit stops so they're on the radar at least. You may not see them out on the track if they're not 3 wide on Saturday, but that's part of the challenge is where is the story right now, and we don't want to ignore people. We want to give everybody their due. But at the same time, if we're back showing the guy in 19th and we miss 3 wide for lead, then they're like, what are these guys doing? What are they showing?
Who puts the who says, here's where we're going to put the cameras?
That's me.
I would like to give you a kiss, but I won't.
Thank you.
You're not kidding.
Amen to that.
Because the stationing of the cameras, when you're in the grandstands, you see these cars. You can't see them. Now, a lot of these guys afterwards are saying, "Gee, right." Well, when you're looking straight at them coming at you out of turn 2, you can see them move.
Yeah, I love that shot.
It isn't anybody doing it saying, hey, you move over. They're doing it. So what are you complaining about? You're the one turning the wheel. And then you could see also the incidents that generally happened when they were running 3 wide, the guy in the middle. They took the air off the car, it wobbled a little bit, they were so close, you bang, and then off it goes. But was sorry to hear them complaining. I thought it was a little strange for TK to say after the race, it's dangerous racing, especially for the size crowd. You get a bigger crowd and we'll do it. Well, what's the difference? A win is a win. A second's a second. It doesn't matter how many are there.
Especially the way he was driving at times. I thought that was a little bit interesting coming from him. He was one of the ones making it 3 wide.
Yes. And I thought that Mr. Montoya put a couple of people out of the way because he bobbled, and that's the way it is. Now, the only option you got is when you're in that situation, you get out of the gas. Of course, Elio tried that, and somebody from behind got in the way, and that guy. But overall, I think listening to the two guys from Formula One, looking at this, it is without question the most exciting racing in the world. I don't think there's any question. And that race was one of the best they've had in 100 years. And will they do it again? Hard to say. Will they bring him back? I don't know. Maybe not. Will they go to Texas? Because that's what Eddie Gossage wanted at Texas. And he gets 5 guys on the lead lap and the winner 7.5 seconds. That's not what he wants to see.
Well, but part of that with Texas, though, you got to remember is everybody gets on NASCAR about the NASCAR yellows. Well, the reason you have the NASCAR yellows is so they are bunched up, so you don't have just 5 guys left on the lead lap. If NASCAR didn't throw a yellow every 30 laps, the odds of having only a handful of guys on the lead lap is a lot greater. I'm just saying.
So was I. Now, I understand that one of your initial jobs in broadcasting is you worked in a CBS studio as a page or something.
Yes.
How did you always want to get in broadcasting of some sort in some capacity?
Oh, yeah. I started, actually, when I was 18. I was a freshman at Long Beach State University, and I got a job as a page at CBS Television City in Hollywood doing game shows and soap operas and all that kind of stuff. But the point of it was I knew I wanted to do racing, but that was just an entryway to do TV, to get a resume builder, to get to work for people like Terry, to get to do racing.
Did he buy the resume? It says I worked for To Tell the Truth. He said, "Oh, this is my guy."
Actually, you know what? The last resume I ever did was the one I sent to Terry back in 1991 when Saturday Night Thunder was going to go at Ventura. I read it in Speed Sport. I sent him a resume. About 5 days later, Randy Fishman, his old CFO, called me, and as they say, the rest is history.
I understand that you don't come back from Texas and lounge around for a week or two to the next race, cut the lawn, get into a little landscaping, that you work for more than one station. You work for more than NBC Sports Network. Yeah,
I do the NASCAR Truck Series for Fox. I've been doing that for about the last 8 years or so, and this is actually my first year doing IndyCar. I did Champ Car back in 02 and 03, but this is my first time back doing open wheel since then.
Now, nobody's listening. No, they're all eating their sandwich or not paying attention. Which is more exciting, IndyCar or trucks?
Oh, easily IndyCar.
Really?
It's any open wheel racing. I'm from open wheel racing. Sprint cars and midgets is what I've grown up watching since I was a little kid. So, open wheel racing in general is much more exciting, I think.
How did you pick him up? How do you find somebody? Did he send you a resume out of nowhere and you looked at it and said, "Boy, to tell the truth, that's pretty good"?
Sure. No. I think I always promised myself, because I was fortunate enough, and I think it's a good lesson in general, is that, if I was ever going to get lucky enough to get in a position where I could make some influence or do some hiring, I was always going to get back to people and get back to them quickly. You know that. I always get right back to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yes. Sandy does call me. She and I have become very close.
I know. But, you can always tell when somebody writes a passionate cover letter and has a resume like Roger did. He started working with Dave Despain right away, and then you could tell on the headset, it's like, well, this guy's knowledgeable, and they hit it off, and it wasn't hard. What you always have to have is passion, right? And you have to have people that don't care about their holidays, that don't care about vacation, that don't care about, unfortunately, being away from their family quite a bit, because we have to be trying to entertain you when you're home during the holidays. And Roger fit all that from the beginning. Actually, after we had done a couple of seasons of Thunder, he came to Indianapolis and said, "I'm not going away." So it's like, all right, that's all I need to hear. and he's been a real success story.
Is there a difference in producers? I mean, you work for Fox and so forth, and you do NASCAR and you do trucks. And
This is your big chance, Roger.
is there a wide difference in what
Hell
one
yes.
producer will want
Can I
compared
cuss?
to another one?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general they're all pretty similar, but it is a challenge because they all have their different styles. Because Terry has done so many jobs and he's directed as well. He's more he talks more about the directing than maybe some other director or other producers I work with. But that's because he's also a director, so he sees things maybe from a different perspective of somebody who's just a producer, that kind of thing. So. I think there's definitely everybody no different than any other workplace. You work with somebody doing the same job, and you work with somebody else who comes into that job, and you're like, how is this even possible? Like this person has a different different demeanor and a different way of doing things, and so it's all different. But it's been a pleasure to work with Terry this year.
Have you ever been
Did I do
sitting?
okay?
He said he'll buy your water tonight. That's not a problem. Have you ever found yourself concentrating on one of the many screens that you're looking at with a headset on? I forget who the hell the producer is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's about once a show I'll say, Mark, Terry, Keith, who are you?
All right, Terry.
Yep.
We're going to get down to the nitty gritty now. You and your wife, obviously it took two of you, have two sons. Your two sons are thespians.
Yes.
They're in the theater. I said that today, and somebody said,
Yeah, you said
what
that
did
right.
you say? Thespians. They're in the
Yep.
theater. Oh. One is performing in Cincinnati.
Yep.
Or was. I still assume
Still
still is. And one was in New York, or still is in New York.
Still is. Yep.
And I understand, as the story goes that I read, you got a call from your son in New York, Corey, I believe, and said, Dad, they're looking for some investors. They're looking for something in this play. Are you interested? And I don't know if he added, I need the job, so say yes. But you agreed and became what I guess was a co-producer.
Yeah. Corey had sent me. We're involved with the Broadway musical On the Town.
I was going to say that, so it sounded like I knew what I was doing.
But the
Tickets available.
Tickets available, right? He's on stage as we speak. He was already cast, and they were trying to do some things with some internet potential to find qualified investors, and I always felt like I would. I like, again, anything that's big and tricky and live is right up my bailiwick. I hope, again, when I pass on, I hope I just miss the corner and slam into a tree, because I don't want to slow down. I really enjoy challenging live productions. I love to try and entertain people. And, if you're pretty good at what you do, everything else should rectify an existence. And, boy, it's been a lot of fun. And it's Broadway is a whole different animal. I've met a lot of interesting people already. I went to the Tony Awards, and it was neat. It was really cool.
Now,
See my son up there was really cool.
Your son is in the production.
Uh-huh.
The production is a revival of On the Town from, I think, the 20s or 30s. I might mention he was at the Tonys for several reasons. One is the play was nominated for a Tony. Somehow the producers were nominated for a Tony.
Yes, somehow.
And I believe the lead was as well, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, for a first effort, I've got to ask you, I know you talking to his ear, you talking to the guys down in the pit road and tell them what to do while they're trying to do their job, incidentally. What do you do as a producer for a place other than sit down and be quiet during the production?
Well, you write a check. It's totally different than sports.
Well, do you have anything to say once the play is going?
No, we're involved in the administrative meetings, and you're constantly, trying to approve budgets for the marketing and what we're trying to do. Like Misty Copeland, the African American female lead to the New York City Ballet, is going to come in and guest soon, so we're going to capitalize on that. She's a big Under Armour athlete,
And Under Armour is doing very well, incidentally.
Yeah. So, you're constantly trying to just help prop up the show. But in theater and in movies, the director is the king. In sports, it's a little more of a co-production, but the producer really kind of has to, he's the one that'll get beat up a little more in sports.
And I was told by this young lady sitting out here that you have a very nice pad in New York, and you spend quite a bit of time there.
Getting there a lot more, yeah.
Which she says is wonderful because he's not here.
Yeah, exactly.
But the damn phone rings and there he is. Hello, what's going?
Yeah.
To have become a co-producer of a Broadway play and then get nominated in your first shot out of the box, it's got to be spectacular. I mean, that had to knock you away. To say, holy smoke, look what we've done.
Yeah, it's been tremendous. I think about Mars Hill a lot, good old Decatur Central. But it's I love it here. I love the. It's just been a really nice ride. But as I say, I really want to keep reaching for the stars. I don't care what it is.
Well, hopefully your son is going to be a star.
I think he's doing okay. Yeah.
Did I not understand he's an understudy for one of the leads?
Two of them,
yes.
Yep.
Now, it's bad enough he's got to do his part, but now he's got to know theirs.
Yes.
In case something happens,
it's pretty phenomenal. Eight shows a week. He's done 288 consecutive shows to 9, and it's hard work, but
he loves it.
Yep.
How about your son that's in Cincinnati? Is he loving it too?
Same. Yeah. He's constantly performing. Just came back from Washington D.C. Doing some an event there over at Lincoln Center or at Kennedy Center. Wrong center. But you're really good. Really fortunate.
What steered them toward the theater? Why? I mean, you're in television. I don't know if maybe they don't like racing. It's too noisy.
Well,
or it smells.
They were put in go-karts really early on, but everybody has to pursue their own passion, and I certainly tried to get them in go-karts right away, and I could tell there wasn't as much zeal there. Honestly, I just wanted to get them in a lot of diverse opportunities. My wife and I always enjoyed dancing, so we put them in dance, and I always felt like if a guy could dance, what do you, ladies? You're halfway home, right? So I thought I was doing them a favor early on, but it kind of stuck.
Would you like to
that's really watching out for your boys.
Yeah, say.
By the way, Terry's got a son on Broadway. My son is on day 2 of potty training, just for the record. So very, very similar.
Yeah, but you should
very
see,
similar experiences.
He showed me his son was in a
Dodgem car.
Yeah, Dodgem car the other day. This video is priceless. He just drove around in a circle, looking at the sparks. When you go around and he wasn't bumping anybody. He was just so fascinated. But he was turning left.
Absolutely.
So he's
all
probably going to be all right.
So what do you think your wife would say?
No.
He wants to race.
No, I already beat you to it. No.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's why I keep telling her he's tall. Don't worry about it. All the drivers are little, short, jockey-looking people, so you'll be fine.
So he could play basketball, volleyball.
Golf is what we're thinking.
I
Good
can
non-contact sport.
I can introduce you to about 8 race car drivers. They tried that, didn't work. They got golf clubs in the closet, but it didn't work. How is On the Town doing? Is it selling out daily? Is it you getting?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't sell out. It's interesting. It's in the largest theater in Manhattan and on Broadway, and it's where Spider-Man was. But our overhead is not nearly what Spider-Man was. It's an 1,800 seat theater, but our expenses, it's just business. Our expenses aren't incredibly high. We have a large orchestra, but we're paying the bills and we're chipping down at our investment, and we're entertaining folks. It was about 3 sailors. If you don't know the show, Gene Kelly and Frank Sinatra were in the movie, and it's just about 3 sailors that have 24-hour shore leave before they're going to go over and defend the country. And it's patriotic. We start every show with the national anthem, and it's just a throwback to when men and women didn't know if they were going to see each other again. Well, unfortunately, it's still going on, but it was a time in our country's past that we should celebrate.
What's next in your theatrical career, sir?
I don't know. I'll look at other things. I do like musicals. Again, if it's big, I don't. Elephant Man and all these plays with big stars in them. I'd rather have a big production. And so I'm looking at opportunities maybe with some other big musicals. Hunchback of Notre Dame is kind of on the radar right now, kind of a remake. So.
Do you think either us could audition for one of the parts? I mean, we know the producer. You think we could get an audition?
Oh, I'll leave that up to you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'll be the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
No comment.
What to you, Roger, is the most exciting that you handle? I mean, you do, I assume, more than just trucks and Infinity and IndyCar. You must.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've really been blessed. I've been able to do pretty much every form of motorsport that there is. I've gotten to direct at one time or another, and to me, there's just nothing quite. First of all, it's live TV. I mean, there's nothing that beats live TV as far as I'm concerned, because just there's nothing like that when you get the 10 seconds back from to start the show. It's like I was like the Lorne Michaels has a great quote from Saturday Night Live where he says that we don't go on the air on Saturday night at 11:30 because we're ready. We go on because it's 11:30 on Saturday night, and that's kind of how we feel a lot sometimes, where it's just ready or not, you're going on, and there's just nothing like that rush, and then you get the additional rush of the start of a race. I mean, to me, it's just no better. I hate to call it a job, but it's no better job as far as I'm concerned to do.
Have you done track and field? I know Terry mentioned
I have.
you do it. You do it?
Yep, I've done track and field. Yep, and rowing. I did rowing in the Olympics in 2000.
Rowing, I can understand. Track and field, there could be a
lot going on there.
Oh,
there's a lot going on there, yeah.
And you bounce. What irritates me is Dwight Stones. I love the field events. I used to be a high jumper and a broad jumper and shot put, discus, but they show one shot and it's gone. I mean, poor Dwight combs his hair, he's through. What the hell happened to him?
Gymnastics is another difficult one, too. There's
I would think.
a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Did you used to hang out with the decathletes, too?
No.
Okay.
I do. I have met over the years.
Inside joke.
I have met over the years the former decathlon world champion, who's now I don't know what he is.
He's a heck of a race car driver, or she was.
Yeah, she's done a lot of things, and I think in my feeble little mind that Bruce Jenner was probably the greatest athlete America ever had. This guy was just spectacular, and to think that he really wanted to go into the ladies' locker room and take a shower, I can't comprehend. But I've seen him over the years, and I of course didn't know that, so I never said, "Hey, what's next for you, sweetie?" But it is what it is, and he was great, and you still, whenever you see Olympic clips of anything, you still see him in there, once or twice or three times. I mean, the guy was phenomenal. What's next for you, Roger, old boy? You got one kid on the potty. Are you ready to get the next one going?
No, we're one and done. And
well, you sissy.
No, I'm not home a whole lot. So yeah, one is good. So no, just
you were
real
home
busy.
long enough to make one. Gee whiz.
That's what we got. We're off in December. Not a whole lot of racing going on in December.
That's true.
I'm going to change the tables here. How are you with that race Saturday? It was really the most exciting race I've ever been a part of.
I thought it was a great race. I thought the drivers used their heads. I didn't think there was anybody doing anything, to get out of my way. Although if Paul Tracy had been out there, he said he would probably bump his way through if that's what it took. But I thought it was a clean race. Now, was it dangerous? Well, everybody, fortunately, is going the same direction. It's not like you got to dodge a guy coming the other way on the interstate and he jumped the median. I thought it was, without question, probably the finest race that I've seen in 10 years. And the only ones that came close to that were the ones at Texas initially, out of the box. But I thought it was a great race.
Yeah.
And I don't know, how do you control that? There's guys, no matter what they say, they want to win. And if there's an opening between two cars, they're going to go for it.
Sure.
And that's what they do. Now, to complain about it, they could have stayed and waited until they went through the corners or done something. But as I said, the only mishaps I saw was generally when they were going three wide, the guy in the middle of the car would bounce, hit somebody, and that's what happened. So I thought it was great. I thought the television coverage was excellent. I thought you got all of the action and where things happened and how it happened. You got all of that, which tells me you didn't take a smoke break or a coffee break or a pee-pee break for that matter.
No breaks.
So I thought it was great.
Thanks.
And I think
It's all that Winchester training.
And I think that you followed, as you said, you had to be a little bit careful because there was so much going on at the front. You couldn't go to the back and say this guy just went up 7 spots, although it came up on the screen.
Do you remember what it was? You were on. We were 3 wide. Were we on? What on board? And then all of a sudden, somebody shot through to make it 4 wide. Right? I can't even.
It was
remember.
when Munoz went.
Munoz
in
went from
turn
like
1
fifth.
at the bottom, just out of nowhere. Just went from like 7th to 1st, and
Oh my
that was
God.
crazy. Even the
how?
guys in the booth were like, "Who was that?"
Yeah, just incredible. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's what makes IndyCar racing so exciting. These guys are not stupid. I think they're probably the best drivers in the world.
Amen.
And that kind of racing, I say, when you get 2 guys, and I don't understand why they got an Australian broadcasting IndyCar, but that's another story.
No,
those 2 guys.
He's pretty good.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
really
he's fine.
awesome.
That's not the point. The point is American sport. But in any case, they opened their eyes on this one and went, wow.
Yeah.
And I thought that, to me, that impressed the hell out of me on that one because
Yeah.
I figured that, it's another race. Oh, no, it wasn't either.
Yeah.
They hadn't seen anything like that. Well, that's
Yeah.
great. Well,
I even think Barber. That was a great. We've had some great races, and I really wish I knew what the magic formula was because it just needs to be. God knows we think about it all the time. We want it to be back where it was, but all we can. I wish it was.
I think everybody does, and I think, and to me, and I have not hesitated saying that you won't see racing like that on a street or road course. It just isn't going to happen.
No. Of course not. But
And to say, well, let's go to Boston. Why? The hell's in Boston? I sent them an email. I said, I didn't know there was an oval track in Boston. Where is it? And now they're looking at
I'm
Road
okay
America.
with either, though. These guys are so skilled, and if we can market properly and we can get people to, I just think they're so diverse and they're so skilled at what they do. I appreciate it all, frankly.
I don't think, and I've said 1,000 times, there's no other series in the world where you've got to master a 3/4 mile track,
Sure.
a 2.5 mile track,
Right.
a street course, a road course. You've got to master all of it to win the championship. So there's no other series, and I don't care if Formula One, the greatest drivers in the world. Oh yeah, come over here and run Speedway once.
Right.
And strangely enough, when Nigel Mansell come here, damn near won the thing. Came close.
Right.
So anyway, I appreciate you taking the time to be here. I congratulate you on your co-production and nominated for a Tony Award
Thank
for
you.
your involvement in the play, and your sons both doing quite well, and I'm happy
nice
for
of
you
you.
to hear that.
Very nice of you.
And for you, Roger, keep up the work. As I said, I've heard a number of people say, the television's better than it has been in some time, and it was much better than that other thing that would televise a couple races.
Thank
by
you. I
far.
appreciate it.
Well, these are the guys. If you don't like what they're doing, here they are. Tell them. They're right here. But wait until they leave, because I don't want to have to clean the tomatoes up off the
Nice guy.
The producer of IndyCar Racing, among other things, the owner of Lingner Productions, Mr. Terry Lingner.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And the director of most of the racing you watch, whether it's trucks, cars, open wheel, closed wheel, or high jumping, Mr. Roger Vincent.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My next guests are in the back, and I appreciate it. Thanks for coming, you guys.
Thank you.
Nice to have met you. I want to mention to you that on July 18th from 4 to 8 p.m., Charlie Brown's is celebrating 40 years of food, family, and friends. From 1975 to 2015, they're going to have a car show, which is going to be a cruise-in, music, food, and fun. So join them. It is going to be a great time. And if you have a grandchild or something small, 9 years old and less, why not take them for a victory lap at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? I've got tickets are $5 a piece. You can get 7 for $25 and get a ride. We're going to have a drawing and you can win it. But you only have to be 9 years old and up, get a ride. And if you just go in there and take a ride in there and mention my name, you get the picture that they take of you at the completion for free. And if you're looking for any kind of graphics, the Indy Racing Experience is in the graphics business. They have expanded. They are doing very well. They're growing, and they're treating their customer just like they do with the people in the Indy Racing Experience. So give them a call. Find out if they can help you. They'll be happy to. Number is 317-243-7171, and ask for Brandon. You will be very glad you did. And if you're looking for a two-seater ride at the Speedway, again, you can go to the call the Indy Racing Experience at 317-243-7171, extension 101. Find a date you can do it, mention my name, and you get 20% discount. They also have drive-yourself cars. So you can either get a two-seater or drive yourself. Mention my name, and you get a 20% discount on the trip. Tonight's show is presented in part by Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. Come to the country to see why the best prices are in the country at Sam Pierce Chevrolet. Take I-65 north to exit 34, go south 1 mile, and you will find when you deal with Sam Pierce why he is always at the top for customer satisfaction. Founded in 1993 to spearhead Honda's entry into IndyCar racing, Honda Performance Development has overseen successful racing efforts at all levels of the sport, from karting and quarter midget to IndyCar and prototype sports cars. HPD offers race engines and competition products for professional, amateur, and entry-level racers. For more information about HPD and the company's racing product line, visit hpd.honda.com. That's hpd.honda.com. And the next event for the SVRA will be July 9th to the 12th at the Portland Vintage Racing Festival at Portland International Raceway, obviously in Portland, Washington. The 9th to the 12th. If you want to see some fabulous cars and some great entertainment, great action, stop by. SVRA Portland Vintage Racing Festival, July 9th to the 12th. And do yourself a favor if you're a vintage fan. Go to svra.com and subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. It is a top-shelf magazine, and you can find some of the cars that you knew as a kid. You'll find out who's got them, what they're doing with them, and who's having fun. If it's time to get insurance for your home, your car, or your life, do what I did. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Give them a call. Number's 317-248-0070. Get a quote. You might find that Mike will surprise you like he did me, give you better coverage for less money. That's VP Insurance. Now, my next guests are here. They said we've got nothing to do, so we'll come by and talk to you. Sitting on the outside is a gentleman that I have never met, but we're going to be very good friends, I'm sure. He is here because there is a group coming to town. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, called the Rolling Stones. This is a gentleman that's helped put that together. He is a partner now with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he's in town getting everything organized, and he's going to give me a couple of tickets because I'm just a nice guy. Please welcome Mr. Ned Collette. Sitting next to Ed is Ned. Ned is a guy that I know and pester from time to time. Strangely enough, when I asked him if he could come here, he said yes, which surprised me. I thought he'd say, I'm busy, but he's here. And everything that goes on at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he is involved in. I mean everything. From making sure the place is cleaned up tonight for tomorrow's action, or getting whatever needs to be ready. And, of course, the next event with the Indianapolis Grand Prix, the Indianapolis 500, the SVRA, the Corvette show last weekend, and now the Rolling Stones. He's kind of busy. But he's here tonight, so let's find out what's going on. Please welcome Mr. Dave Shaw. Now, you told me when you called and said, and I thought, oh, geez, he's calling me, he won't be here. No, I've got another guest to come along. Good. That you've worked with this gentleman. Now, you're back now spending the majority of your time doing what you did for 25 years, and that's organizing events, as opposed to getting the track swept for a race or two a year.
Yeah, I started my career a long time ago in the event business in the music industry, and fortunate enough to work with Ned a long time ago, and we've been reconnected recently, and we're just really lucky to. We had lunch together today, and I literally grabbed him and I said, "Man, it's so good to be sitting having tour catering with you again, because it's kind of what we used to do a long time ago." So,
how did you get here? You did a lot of jobs with entertainment and various forms, and you were at the state fairground, and somehow you ended up here. Now, did somebody go down and say, "Psst, Dave, I got a job for you"?
no, I left Live Nation and went to work for Cindy Hoy at the fairgrounds shortly after the stage collapse. There was a internal investigation that went out that happened as a result of the stage collapse, and they identified a need for an ops person, an operations person. So Cindy and I knew each other from when I was here locally. I used to run Deer Creek, which then was Verizon and now is Klipsch, and then the Murat, which now has a new name, and then I got transferred up to Chicago, and that's when I got to work with Ned. And then the opportunity came up at the fairgrounds, and it was great because I wanted to get back here locally. We just had a daughter who's now almost 6, so to get back home, closer to home, but then also closer to the track, which is my first love, was ideal for me. And then about a year into my stint at the fairgrounds, I got a text from some guy who I didn't know at the time, turned out to be Doug Bowles, who's my boss, and said, "Hey, would you want to meet for coffee sometime?" And I said, "Sure, who is this?" Because I didn't have his number in my phone. He said, "This is Doug Bowles." I said, "Hell yes, I want to have coffee," because I love the track, and it's Doug Bowles. So, and 7 months later, he offered me the job the night of Thanksgiving, and I didn't accept right away because I just wanted to kind of, wait.
And you had the turkey in the oven, I know.
Well, this is at 9 o'clock, so I had a couple glasses of wine at that point.
Oh.
So I called him the next day and accepted. And then my first day was January 2nd of 14.
And I'm thinking to myself, as you're coming to work at the Speedway, they handed you a shovel and a broom, and can you clean up the garage? But they might have handed you a shovel, but it was a snow shovel.
Well, yeah, if you guys remember, 2 years ago was the July 11th it was 20 below zero, and I had to go out to the track because I had never.
January 11th.
Excuse me, January. Sorry,
I do that all the time. Don't worry about it.
And it was the first and one of the only times that literally nobody has been at the racetrack, and I was the only one. We called off security. We called off. I mean, you guys remember you couldn't legally go out, but of course I went out. So it was one of those experiences that I still to this day get chills about, just being able to walk along the front straightaway with not a single person at the entire speedway.
As I mentioned to you on the phone, when I had Mark Miles here, Mr. Miles, the first time I said, what are your plans? And he's talking about races and da-da-da-da. And I said, have you got any intention of bringing, that's a big facility. People don't realize how big it is. You watch it on television, you go, oh, we had a granddaughter come out and run the Mini. She got inside and said, holy Toledo, it's big. I told you, but you don't realize till you get there. And I said, are you going to do anything? I said, no, we're going to concentrate on building the racing. Well, obviously he was full of hooey because I think it was either that first year or the next year they started with the concerts, and they've built on that. And now the epitome, I suppose, of the concert business at this time for people like me that don't know who these guys are. When they brought in Jason Aldean, I had no clue who he was. But so has the focus of the Speedway changed a little bit? Let's use the facility when we're not racing?
I think it has to a point. Our core business and our core value is racing. Number one, make no mistake about it, is racing, and we want to put cars on track as much as we can. But when there's an opportunity to work with a guy like Ned and the company who he works for, which is called Global Live, and work with the Stones, it makes total sense. Instead of letting the place sit dormant, not using it this weekend, which is a holiday weekend, obviously, we're going to draw 50,000 plus to the Speedway. We're putting 3,000 employees to work on a time where they would have not had to work. We are supporting our neighbors, which there's a couple here somewhere. I don't know where she is, but spoke to her earlier. Yes, right there in her normal spot. But most importantly, we'll draw 50,000 plus who have never been to the racetrack. That was one of the beauties of what we learned about the Jason Aldean show that we did last year, the night before the race. We took a poll of about 5,000 people, and 90% of them had never been to the racetrack. So that made ourselves think, well, man, this is really good, and we're drawing people to the racetrack to have a good time, to experience the racetrack, and then hopefully draw more fans. And that's the exact same strategy with the Snake Pit, which I'm sure everybody in this room just loves. It's this electronic music festival the day of the race that goes on in the middle of the racetrack. And unless you're close to it, you won't know that it's there. Well, you'll hear it because it's the loud DJ bass booming. But we have 22,000 kids that bought tickets to go to the Snake Pit. They have no intention of caring about racing, but they buy a ticket to get into the racetrack, and then they buy a ticket to get into the Snake Pit, and it's cultivating new race fans. So that's a long answer for a short question, but it just makes sense for us as a company to want to go in that direction.
Well, I probably shouldn't bring this up, but in my era, when I started, I didn't have to buy a ticket to go to the Snake Pit. I just walked down there and drooled. Looked. But that's another story. Mr. Collette, sir.
Yes, sir.
There was a release sent out by some genius. I don't know who it was, but I happened to see it. In fact, I think Dave was surprised you did read that, didn't you? Yeah, I did. That said that you were but most recently with Live Nation, and you have left them. And either did you start Global Live, or is this you and some partners put something together?
Global Live is a company that was formed back in October, and it was formed by a gentleman named Ashley Tabor. Ashley Tabor is based in London, and young man, 35 years old, rolled up radio stations. He saw that there was a need to keep terrestrial radio vibrant and alive with the XMs and the Siriuses. He said, at some point people are going to want to listen to the radio, they're going to want the personalities. So he started Global Entertainment. And what's on the radio, the format is mostly pop music, is music. So one thing led to another, and he says, well, how can I get into developing artists to play live who are going to become stars one day, and then they'll be on my radio station, and and we all know how radio stations work. They sell advertising, they employ a lot of people. So a gentleman named Randy Phillips formerly ran Dave's and my competitor at Live Nation, a company called AEG, Anschutz Entertainment Group. And Randy is probably the most dynamic entrepreneur in the music business. And somehow he and Ashley Tabor met, and he said, let's do this. So Randy started AEG Live, so he said, let's start Global Live. And I feel fortunate because what he did was he handpicked who he wanted to work with to start the live concert company, and it was all based on, I've been in the business 35 years, which, okay, that's something, but it's based on relationships. And like with Dave, I said, well, wait a minute. There's this Indianapolis 500 IMS Speedway up here. Dave Shaw's there. Let's break ground on this company, do something very, very big in the largest sporting venue in the world with the most famous band, rock and roll band in the world. I said, if we're going to make an omelet, let's crack a whole bunch of eggs at the same time. And he said, okay, you're hired. That was it. That was my interview. And I didn't call him back. I just said, sure, I'll take it. Because my career has been mostly in the music business. I love it. I see people's faces when they see the bands go on stage. Gives me a thrill. But getting to work with folks like Dave and folks around the United States, finding just gems. We're not getting into the business like our friends at Live Nation who have the amphitheater, who will buy all these tours and just do a show after show, week after week. We feel there's something special about the big event. So I said, I'm your man, and got on the phone with Dave, and we're here today.
Do you deal with the group, I mean, have you dealt with, there's probably 17, they got, 11 trucks of equipment, so there's probably 17 layers to get to the stones themselves.
It's 50 trucks down, 50 trucks.
Well, I just made up a number. Do you deal with the artists yourself or their representatives?
Their representatives do, and I always say, if I have to deal with the artist, something's very, very wrong. So I'm saying, do you get to meet Mick Jagger? I would love personally to meet Mick Jagger, but on July 4th I don't want to, because that means he's not happy with something and he wants to fix it, guys, so I'm going to send Dave.
So what are some of the other artists that you've worked with that have put up, or is this your first big splash?
For Global Live?
Yeah.
This is our first big splash. We announced the company and at the Speedway when we announced the Rolling Stones date. But it's been in the works. Our first meeting day was, September of last year to start working on this project.
Well, I read that Mick Jagger, you've heard of him,
Yeah,
didn't want to come.
long hair.
Yeah, and he jumps up and down and prances around and all that kind of stuff. He's 71, incidentally. You better get him quick because, but I read he wasn't excited about coming here because the last time he was here didn't sell out, and that didn't make him happy.
He wasn't excited in 1994, but but Mick Jagger makes the decisions, and there are many cities vying. 14 cities in the United States, and Montreal got the North American tour, and he approved every city, approved every drawing, approved everything we put together over those months. So I will kind of rebuke the rumor that he didn't want to come, because if he didn't want to come, he wouldn't be here. They're playing Raleigh, North Carolina tonight at North Carolina State University.
I know a friend of mine is running the catering there. Guy used to cook for the Indy Racing League, actually.
I mean, so if you see what shows they have put out on this tour, they played Orlando, again, not Miami. They played Atlanta, but they played Georgia Tech, the football stadium at Georgia Tech. They played Columbus at the Ohio State football stadium. So played Pittsburgh. So I mean, I think the Stones, and led by Mick's influence and where he wants to go, I think he's saying, look, there are a lot of fans in a lot of these cities that we haven't been to in a while. Let's go see them. So I think the media, they had something to talk about, because apparently in 1994 he says, I'm never coming back. But guess what? We got him back.
Well, for an extra $150 you threw him, I'm sure. I was told when the negotiation, in fact, Doug told me this, that when the negotiations were going on, the concern was ticket sales. And they said, here's what's going to happen. The first day you'll sell X amount. The second, first week you'll do this. The second week, a month, da-da-da. And the last time I said to Doug, how are they doing? They said, they're spot on. After 50 years, they ought to know what they'll do. And of course they do. So everything according to plan is in place. I mean, the people, the ticket sales, everything is pretty much as they said, this is what will happen, and it has.
Yeah, I mean, Ned and I've talked to Ned more than my wife in the last, month or something. We talked multiple times a day. Ned got here Sunday, so we spent the last 3 days together, and we'll spend the next 4 days together. Well, more than that, because we have to settle the show after the fact. So, this is something that, I don't want to jump ahead, but this is something that we've never done before at the racetrack. And even though you start off with this blank canvas of, okay, where are you going to put the stage? And then you got to think about access points to get to the various seating sections, standing sections, because there's 4 different price levels. Well, there's no lights out there. I mean, we don't have any lights out of the racetrack, so we've got 57 light towers that we rented for the parking lots and for the inside the gates. We've got 475 portalettes. So there's all this operational structure that's gone into this plan for the last 8 months, give or take. And now that we're finally seeing it all come to life, it's really exciting.
And I hope you realize now that the Rolling Stones come in on some jet. They get limousines, pick them up.
They don't.
They don't? How do they get here? They ain't driving.
They get here on a jet, but they have a car service that takes them from here to their hotel. And
they go to the hotel, and everybody's busting their hump, and they walk in, jump on stage, prance around for a couple hours, and go home. In the meantime, you've been working months to put this thing together.
I'm good with that. That's
No
my
one's
job.
gonna pay $150 to see me.
That's our job.
Yeah, it's
That's
great.
our job.
How,
Terry can attest.
how is this, what you're doing here, compared to what you did in your career coming this way? Working at the Klipsch place in Chicago and various locations.
This is my 13th Rolling Stone show, so
Well, you and Mick ought to be pals by now.
right. Not really. But it's different because all the other Stone shows that I've done have been in Soldier Field or Comiskey Park, which is now U.S. Cellular. So there's built-in infrastructure. There's bathrooms. There's ADA seating. There's, all of that stuff is already built and designed. So again, to walk into our place with a blank canvas and have to build everything from scratch, it's a lot of work. It is very difficult.
I also, this could be wrong, but was told during the initial negotiation, how are we going to put, how many chairs do we need? And they said, you don't want chairs, stand. Obviously you get more people that way, I would assume. And you can't bring any cooler in, so that means if you're in the middle and you get thirsty, you're going to have a hell of a hard time get out and come back, which could be fun, actually.
You won't actually. I mean, just from a concession standpoint, we've got concession points of sale that are built on the outside of each standing section. I keep saying seating section, but each general admission seating section. So the furthest you'll have to go to get something to drink or eat is less than 50 feet.
You're a guy after my own heart. How clever to think of that. Why have the Stones lasted so long? Why have they lasted over 50 years? Why? I mean, if you look at Keith Richards, you wonder, how the hell is he even standing to start with?
I believe the Rolling Stones have always identified with their fan base. They'll tell you straight up, we're the best bar band in the world. I mean, the Rolling Stones have played, even on when they warmed up, they played a small theater in Los Angeles for 400 people, and they connect. Now they'll connect it at IMS with 80-foot video tower so you can see them from the moon, but they do, I mean, they are engaging to the crowd. They've always gotten the crowd to participate with them. They write good songs. They stuck to their genre, and they're just, one heck of a British rock and roll band, and that's all they want to be. That's what Mick tells you. We're a bar band, and we just stuck with our plan for 53 years, and here we are again. So,
have you ever worked with Gene Simmons and Kiss?
Oh yeah.
How is Gene? Now, when he was with the IndyCar, I used to hang around with him at the racetrack, and I said, do you really like touring? He said, yes. I said, how is it? You've been around a long time. He said, let me tell you something. If you see us, that we're performing, we get the money we want. If we don't, we don't do it. I said, you're pretty busy, aren't you? So, yeah, we do well. So, are they anywhere near the Stones, or are they, below? Because when they play, I've seen some of the places they play, they play to 50,000 people on occasion.
I personally believe the Rolling Stones is the biggest rock and roll band in the world because of their longevity. I mean, Kiss has been around since the 70s, but they actually listened to the Stones on the radio when they were becoming musicians. So I think, after 53 years, and you're still there, and you're still doing it, and you're still drawing the crowds, and they really enjoy it. I mean, I hope you're all coming to the show. If not, see it on the news clips. I mean, the local media has been covering it so well. We appreciate that. But you'll see, when they walk out on stage, they have smiles on their faces, and people say, oh, yeah, you're making a bunch of money. But at the end of the day, they're musicians, and they're doing their craft, and they're doing it well, and they're doing it still, not again. The Rolling Stones have never broken up. They're one of the few bands that have stayed together since the beginning. So, Kiss, Gene, and Paul are still there, but they got the new drummer and the new guitar player that put the same paint on that the old drummer and the old guitar player put on. You can't tell the difference, right?
Well, it's interesting what they do and how they do it. Again, I haven't been to a concert, but I've seen enough of their television coverage of concerts, and they appear to be having a good time. They prance around, and you hear that Mick and Keith have their little battles, but I don't believe that necessarily. I think it's good hype for the band because Otherwise, why would you stay together? I mean, that just doesn't make sense.
A great example that to tell you about how the Stones operate, and this is short and quick, but the Mick has seen the site plan for where the stage is going to be and where the standing sections are going to be, and the tour decided, and the tour is paying for, it's not the promoter, not IMS, the tour is paying for audio delay towers, which sounds like a simple thing, but the tour wants to make sure that the sound and lighting experience is so great for even the people that only spent $60 on a ticket that they're adding 5 audio delay towers, which are scaffolding units which are built up from the ground up, and they're speakers that are hung and flown from these truss towers. And there's not many acts that would say, yeah, all right, let's spend another $200,000 on speaker equipment, on stagehands to set them up, on generators to run them, on permits to permit them. And this is all the band, because they want to make sure that from the $1,000 fan who's bought in the front section to the $59 fan that bought 500 feet away, that they get the absolute best audio and video experience.
And you got to think when they say, well, they spend a lot of money. After all these years, I don't think they're going to go broke anytime soon. And how do you get to be famous and have people come? Because they can hear it and you can see it. So.
But at the same time, they're very humble. Guess what Keith Richards eats before every show?
I'm afraid to ask.
Eats shepherd's pie. His mom had a recipe of shepherd's pie back in the UK, and he got her to write it down. So he sends the recipe for the shepherd's pie to every local caterer, and he has them make it, and it goes into his dressing room in a warming dish. After he eats, he's keeping a journal on who has the best shepherd's pie in America.
Well, that's something I've always wondered myself, so now I know. I'll find out if I live long enough to see the book. As long as they're playing, I may not see them when they quit. I mean, they'll be playing while I'm gone. Very interesting. I've been thinking lately, you know, when I've talked to you and where you come from and your background, Dave, and I'm thinking to myself, hell, that's back doing what he's been doing all the time anyway. They just throw a couple races in, you keep you alive, give you a little something different.
Working with Ned again especially has been great, and getting back into the music has been great, but, I mean, I love the Speedway. I mean, during SVRA, and I know a few of you folks were there, but man, there is nothing better than that racetrack and everything that goes on around it, but especially racing. So, love Ned. I love the fact that we're doing this, but man, I'm really excited for the Brickyard 400 because we got cars back on track. I'm really excited for MotoGP, and then literally starting Wednesday after MotoGP, we're on track on the oval every single day from August 15th to August 26th with Firestone testing, with Cooper tire testing, hopefully with Indy Lights, with Indy Racing Experience, with a bunch of other stuff that we have going on. So that's what's equally exciting about this too.
Are you going to get Ned to come to see the Brickyard or the MotoGP or something?
Ned was at the race. He was at the 500 this year.
I'm hooked.
What do you think?
I didn't see you.
I was in the car. No, I'm hooked. I'd never been to an Indy race in my life. And Dave and Doug said, look, you need to see what we do. They should have said you need to see what we do because we're pretty proud of it, but they're 3 humble gentlemen. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, okay, well, you know the adage. I'm from New Orleans, so we don't even have NASCAR in New Orleans. It rains all the time, right? You run one race every 3 years. So when they came around, when they fired up the engines, I was hooked. I mean, I think I have 9 die-cast cars now. I didn't even know the drivers. I knew one driver, Justin Wilson, because he was driving the Rolling Stones car. I'm sitting there, well, I met this guy, and he's like 6'8" or something like that. I'm going, how are you going to get in that car? I mean, that was the most impressive thing I thought I saw. But man, when you hear him come out of that turn 4 and go down that straightaway, it's like it's nothing a Southern boy has ever experienced in his life. And I'm hooked. I'm sitting there calling Dave. There's a race. And I was watching the Michigan Grand Prix. He goes, wow. He goes, you are hooked. So.
Did you happen to have Saturday off? Did he give you some time off so you could watch the race from Fontana, California?
Dave doesn't give people time off.
I know. He
You
doesn't
work
take-
when he works, though.
Yeah, and which is all the time.
Exactly.
Well, these guys produce it. You got to watch an IndyCar race on NBC Sports Network and see what racing's about. Get in there, get hooked, and talk to the people down in New Orleans. Somebody who would book a race in April when it rains in April. Why would you book a race? When I saw that, I said, "You must be kidding."
We didn't come out strong, did we?
Not well. I mean, you had quite a few people show up for some bad weather. It was, and it would have been a huge crowd, I think. But next year is another year. Things will change. Hopefully, tomorrow's teleconference with Mr. Miles will open up some doors of what they have in mind. Because if they don't, I'm going to ask. So, looking forward to this. This ought to be exciting. Having a big event. I mean, the bands you bring in during May are big names. I mean, they're big bands, but nothing like this. Nothing like this.
Yeah, when we started this process, we had thrown some names around like Taylor Swift and.
Well, now really.
Yeah.
And why didn't you bring her here?
She's playing downtown.
Oh.
Some other big names have been mentioned for the future, and we're just kind of we're just the tip of the iceberg as far as this thing taking off for next year and the years to come.
Did you ever think you'd end up at the Speedway back half the time doing what you've been doing for 25 years before you got here?
No, but I'm happy to do it because it's a little bit of job security.
Yeah, there you go. I understand there's been some changes over at the museum now. Some new people in command and so forth. I got to talk to you about that.
Feel free.
Well, I tell you what, I find it interesting. I appreciate you bringing Ned along. I mean, he said, "What the hell am I going to do tonight? Let's go to Autosport." What's that? So you got to see who the producer and the director of IndyCar Racing on NBC is. You can say hello to them. Very nice guys. And thanks for coming by.
Thank you
Thanks
very much for having us.
Thank you.
Dave Shaw for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and a producer, I guess, or whatever from Global Live, Mr. Ned Collette. Next Tuesday, if you haven't heard, stick around for a second, will you?
Okay, we'll do.
If you haven't heard what Derek Daly had to say on Sunday, you want to be here because he'll tell you what he had to say. Very interesting, and I will have an update of what the teleconference entailed. So until next week, I want to thank everybody for watching, for listening. Until next week, saying good night. See you then. See you.